Is there a strategy that'll help you grow your company faster? CEO Sales Strategies is an investigative business podcast for entrepreneurial people who never stop asking questions. Highly acclaimed sales revenue growth expert Doug C. Brown interviews CEOs, business owners, and professionals who serve them to uncover and share actionable tips and methods behind their bulletproof sales strategies. Topics covered on the show include their failures, struggles, secrets, and processes that help them succeed in selling millions to billions of dollars of their products and services, all with the sole aim of helping you grow your business. If you are eager to know the most effective sales secrets from the A players of the game, then the CEO Sales Strategies podcast is certainly the place to be.
Hey everyone, this is Doug C. Brown with another episode of the CEO Sales Strategies podcast. And we got a great guest. Her name is Sara, S-A-R-A, Sheehan. And she owns a company called Sara Sheehan Consulting. And I brought her on because she has a specialty. Her specialty is dealing with change, also how to use coaching and advisory teams, as well as being an executive coach. And I wanted to bring her on because there's a few things here that we talked about that are really some of the things that people just don't understand. They think they understand, but they don't understand. For example, coaching. When do you really how are you supposed to use coaching, right? A lot of people think coaching is like, just give advice or whatever. No, that's advising, right? So not to be a purist about this, but as she'll explain, coaching is really about asking open-ended questions to getting an insight to get people to think in a new way. So how do you use coaching? When should you? When should you not? When should you use training? What is the difference between these categories of things that people say, coaching, training, advising, consulting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Second subject matter we're going to talk about is how to use advisory teams. Now, not paid advisory teams per se. You can pay people to do that, but how do you use advisory teams to your advantage in an unpaid fashion or in a fashion that is a win-win? Now, that might include compensation, it might not. But we talk about the do's and don'ts of using an advisory team, and everyone, no matter what size your business is, you can use, and I implore you to use an advisory team, because advisory teams cut your learning curve and bring expertise to the table that you may not even ever have. So those two things, plus we're going to talk about how do you work within the ever-changing environment of the business today for people in your company if you have employees and people who are solo entrepreneurs as well. In other words, how do you deal with change in the ever-changing environment on the personal level that affects the business? Those are our three subject matters. So without further ado, let's go to our interview with Sara Sheehan. Sara, welcome to the call. I really appreciate you being here on the CEO Sales Strategies podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
One of the reasons I'm so excited for you to actually come here is because you do coaching. And, I want to really talk about, like when we were talking before, you're working within organizations. And I really wanted people to understand what coaching was versus, say, training, because people get it all mixed up. They don't know, is this coaching or consulting or advising or training? And, based on our conversation before, I know you can bring clarity to that point. So what would you say to people who are like, okay, what is coaching and why should I have it?
That is a great question. And so what is coaching and why should I have it? I would go directly to coaching is a process where open-ended questions are asked of a coachee, and it helps them come to insight. And what this does is it actually improves someone's thinking. And when you improve thinking, you can actually improve employee engagement. You can improve the well-being in the company, and you can improve the quality of the leadership. So those are some huge benefits from executive coaching. What's different between coaching and training is that coaching is about asking, and training is definitely more about telling. It's about sharing or imparting content that an audience actually needs to learn or improve on.
So, thank you so much. That's the best definition of coaching I've ever heard. Let's talk about asking, because I think asking is a really important thing, right? You were saying you want to ask open questions to get some insight, to get them thinking. And, a lot of people like try to do internal coaching, and we're going to get to that in a moment. Why is asking a question so, especially an open-ended question, why is it so important in the coaching process itself?
Well, it will actually create new neural pathways in the brain. If you use a brain-based coaching approach, which is science-based, it actually will create space in the brain for new connections. And you are actually asking questions to get people to reflect, to provide space for guidance, and provide an opportunity for creative thinking that may not have existed for that individual. It's such a creative process that people can walk away with absolutely tremendous insights that they never knew that they could have.
So if I'm going to be coaching, let's say I'm a CEO and I want to coach some of my team leaders, or I'm a sales manager and I want to coach my people, what would be like one or two things you would say? Listen, this is standard. Asking open-ended questions I got. Are there any others?
Well, from your question, the first thing that I think of is I just want to make sure I'm clarifying the difference even with your statement, because there are a lot of times people will say, hey, I think I need to coach my team. And when they're saying that, they're actually saying coaching in a different meaning. They're actually saying, I think I need to share some things with my team, which is more on the telling side. And really, if they really want to coach their team, they really need to make sure that they are in the asking mode and they're coming at it from a completely objective perspective. But there's some ways that you can use coaching in your organization that make a difference. Like, for instance, you could use one-on-one executive coaching as a part of a high potential program. And maybe you have those one-on-one sessions occur at strategic intervals in that program. Like, for instance, the beginning, middle, and end is, a tried and true thing to do. You could also use executive coaching at senior levels in an organization, like, for instance, at the VP or C level. When someone gets promoted to that level at the first time, maybe you offer a one-on-one executive coaching engagement, a series of sessions to really create even more leadership capability as a standard practice in your organization. Those are some very reasonable ways. It's also a part of a lot of executive development programs and promotion expectations.
And what should people who are coaching on a regular basis within their organization, what should they expect? Like, coaching's one thing, but everybody wants a return on something, like, return on their time, return on the investment in coaching. What should they expect from their people as an outcome from coaching?
That's a wonderful question. And so it, first of all, depends on the actual structure and the topics. The key objectives for the coaching engagement that they're doing will actually drive the results. Let's just say it's a really basic one-on-one executive coaching setup where you are working with a coachee to develop goals and create a plan of action to achieve them. That is a tried and true, let's say it's a 12-week engagement. It could be 6 months, but 12 weeks is an opportunity for someone to really create a plan and begin executing it and see results. And so the results are actually going to be directly related to the goals that they set in the session. As an example, one of my previous clients set a goal to save her company $1 million. And she was able to achieve that within our 12-week coaching engagement. It's a phenomenal goal and something that she achieved without much trouble at all.
I don't think there's anybody on this line, no matter what size company they are, if they couldn't, saving $1 million usually is profit of $1 million, or certainly a high profit. So I don't think there's anybody listening to this particular podcast that wouldn't go, whoa, okay, I'd like that. We're speaking with Sara Sheehan. She has Sara Sheehan Consulting. So if you want to go check it out, just type that into your browser and she's right there. Sara, you're bringing up so many things. That's, as from being a coach myself for a long time, I think some of the things you're saying are just absolutely brilliant. Like, what are your key objectives? Because a lot of people don't think about that basic tenet of, what do I want to actually accomplish at the end of this thing? So I love that fact. And you've also brought up something which I think is really important. People don't really understand coaching duration. Like how, some people I talk with will say, well, coaching is a short-term thing. It's a subset of consulting, for example, and it should be, to improve the human condition within X amount of time. Other people will say, no, it should be, annually or recurring. What's your philosophy on this? Or what do you think should happen for people? Is there any set time, or is it just kind of like whatever the key objective is?
I think it needs to be fit for the purpose. And let me explain that more, because yes, there are people that want to sharpen the saw at all times and have an executive coach available at all times that they can contact. That's absolutely true. But there are people, like, for instance, you might have a need where you want to have an intervention with someone so that you could really create a little bit more self-awareness or leadership acumen. That kind of a situation, you might be able to do a much shorter duration, like 8 weeks might be perfect for something like that. It really needs to fit the purpose of the actual business need.
That makes so much sense too. You had mentioned the word team before. And I know you and I in the past have talked about advisory teams.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to transition just a little bit, like, why should people use advisory teams? Because, I get pinged all the time now, right? Like, Doug, you could be on this board, or you could be on that board, or you could be, part of this advisory team. But I haven't found anybody actually give me a reason why I'm supposed to be there, right? And which is interesting to me when they're marketing to me. But the reality is, I believe you should always have an advisory team. And so why do you believe, I know we talked about this before, and if I'm correct, you also believe that they should have an advisory team no matter what size the company is at.
Exactly. And so I am a huge supporter of advisory teams. I think they're a critical success factor for anyone that really wants to succeed and grow at all times. And so many management consulting firms support the creation of advisory teams really at the manager level through partner level. As you're going through the promotion process, it's a wonderful thing to have a group of advisors that you can trust and rely on. You can share with them what you're up to. You can navigate a difficult dilemma. Some of the people that you might want to consider having on an advisory team would include people like a very specialized industry expert that could help you lead with information more in your role. A former boss or manager that knows you and you have a good relationship with them. A peer that you are a great partner in collaboration with. People that are truly on your side and have your back. There are many different types of people that you could add, but it needs to fit the individual and their role. In terms of the actual number of people that I'd recommend having 5 to 7 people that you can count on to contact. In terms of structure, I recommend that you have one-on-one meetings with those people. And if there are times when, for instance, you're going up for promotion or you might be interviewing for a new role, you might want to bring those people together in a group meeting, but it's not required. This has got to fit the person and what they're dealing with. But I'm a huge proponent of advisory teams. In terms of the types of things that I discuss with my advisors, I'm very open about what I'm working on, any special projects that I might be part of, areas where I'm currently leading or I would like to lead, and I don't currently have the opportunity, any thought leadership that I might be working on, professional give back and mentoring that I'm doing, and really just getting advice on navigating tough situations because everybody has them.
I have never seen any business ever not have a situation that's tough. Ever.
That is correct. Yes, everybody has tough situations.
I've been involved in 35 businesses. Not one of them has gone smooth all the time. You know, those times that it goes smooth, you're like, this is great. Then all of a sudden, problem. You know, it's like you gotta fix. One thing I loved what you said about advisory teams is pick somebody who's on your side, like that has your back. And I think that's one of the reasons that people are so fearful about bringing an advisory team together is they're going to pick people that maybe don't have their back, or the, you know, people who are going to try to take charge of the company, or, you know, even though they shouldn't be able to. But when I've talked to people and they're like, oh, what advisory team, you know, they're just going to be such a pain, right? That type of thing. You know, they're going to have their own agenda. And sometimes when I've actually talked to people about recruiting for people's advisory teams, they're asking for such high money to actually be part of the team.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have you found that people have to pay people high money? I mean, I've had people say, yeah, I'll be on that advisory board for, you know, multiple 6 figures.
Wow. I'm not even talking in terms of money here. I'm talking in terms of skin in the game, care about the individual, and I want to help you succeed. You know, are there boards of advisors that do pay those advisors? Absolutely, there are. But I'm talking about finding people that actually care about you. And so one other key point that I want to make after listening to your comments there, I want to make sure that it's clear that these individuals on your advisory team could be within the company that you're currently working in, or they could be external. Like, it doesn't matter. What matters is that they support you as a human being, they want to help you, and they may have expertise in a certain area that could help you get an edge.
And if they have expertise in a certain area, as you said, they could be specialists. So
absolutely, that
actually shortens up our learning curve. And it also, you know, I remember the old story, you know, I got a leak in my sink faucet. So, you know, I'm a guy, so I can go fix that leak in the sink. And I try for 2 days. I go to Home Depot, Lowe's, I buy tape, I buy this, I buy tools, still leaking. So you call a plumber who's a specialist. She or he comes in 30 minutes later, no leak, $75. They're out the door, $150, whatever it might be. Right. So it's something when somebody I have found, and this has been something that I've embraced most of my life. I want to be perceived as the guy, even though I'm intelligent and people, you know, look at me and go, wow. I always come in going, I don't know really anything. Let me learn from this person. And if they're a specialist, what I have learned is that they can take something that would take me days or weeks to figure out in 30 minutes or less. And so I love the fact of specialists. I would have not thought so much about a previous boss or a manager. And I think that's a really cool angle because there's somebody who understands a lot more about that person in the working situation.
Exactly. Exactly. And it may bring a good sense of, hey, I know that you've had these 5 experiences in the past when we worked together, and I would love to see you have the opportunity to do X or Y. Like it can really create a very compelling conversation where you can take their advice and put it into good use.
Yeah, and in theory, they should know also how one works under stress, how one works under certain conditions, because they probably experienced that working for that person, and they've had to either coach them through that or they've had to deal with reviews of some sort. So they're probably in that place too, which a lot of people will forget about the human dynamic. And I love the fact that you're not, because when I look at who do I want on an advisory team for myself, for example, I want somebody who's actually going to tell me the truth, who has my back, but I also want somebody that isn't going to hold back.
Right.
Right. And that they can tell me from not just the professional ROI of the situation, but also the personal ROI. Doug, if you do this, look at the stress it's going to cause on you and maybe the organization or the family or whatever it might be, because it gets me to think differently. As you said, goes back to coaching, right? You get some insights and you think new thinking.
Exactly.
So tying those two together, and I don't know what the answer is to this, so that's why I'm coming to the expert on it. Should I be hiring people on my advisory team who actually know how to coach and ask questions like this? Or should I be hiring people who can direct me, or combination of both? Or
I think it's definitely the advisory team concept is really about their expertise and the relationship that they have with you, because you want to be in a situation where let's say you have a peer that you've worked with a lot in the past that you're able to really brainstorm with and come up with new solutions very easily. That's someone that you might want to call when you're trying to come up with a completely new angle on a product or problem. You know what I mean? Like there are different reasons why you want someone on a specific type of person on your team. It really is an expertise type thing for me. Like if I'm talking about the type of people that I'm seeking as advisors to me, someone that was a very senior executive in a consulting firm that has started a smaller operation and is an absolute expert in his field. Someone that is a marketing and branding strategy and positioning expert, because I know that's those are things that I can personally not only benefit from as I grow, but they're very relevant to my business.
it makes a lot of sense. I mean, if we think about it, if you have a great parent, they're usually an advisor too. I remember when I was going to get married, I went to my father, who had been married for 35 years to my mother. And I said, Dad, when do you know it's time to get married? Right. So yeah, he had an answer, so you go to the people. What I'm hearing is go to people who already have success in what you're trying to do, that have your back, that have a vested interest in your success. And you take those from different specialties or people you work for or others, and you have a team together and you meet on a regular basis and you get advice from them. That's an advisory team.
Okay. Absolutely. And so as a general rule, I connect with these people at least every 6 weeks, if not more frequently, based on business needs. And I would also offer that, as you grow in your career and you grow your business, the types of people that are on your advisory team are going to change. And so like, for me personally, I'm in the process of leveling up my advisory team right now. And so it's something that you can always have in your back pocket to make sure that you are going to be as successful as possible.
So when you're leveling up your teams, you basically, in some capacity might outgrow your advisors or your current your advisor, and then you must go to them and explain what the situation is and add
Absolutely.
new people. Okay, that's fair. It's the process of a never-ending growth. You're not going to get to be a professional athlete with the same coach that you had in middle school.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Makes total sense. Cool. We're speaking with Sara Sheehan from Sara Sheehan Consulting. We're talking about a lot of great subjects: coaching, advisory teams. I want to shift now to something that I think is a really cool subject, in addition to what we just talked about, but something you deal with a lot of time, which is how the heck do you deal with all the stress and change in an ever-changing business environment, especially when it comes to human capital? I mean, right now, today, post-pandemic, the Great Recession. I mean, there's all kinds of things going on in business. And so there's a lot of stress floating around there. And I found more stress than there was 3, 4, 5 years ago, with this situation, especially when it comes to human capital.
Absolutely. I think the stressors that we are under now are more difficult and compelling than we've ever seen. And without question, the climate is changing constantly. And that's not the weather, but that is how we are feeling and our well-being at work. And so when I think about this really compelling overarching discussion, I want to put structure in place. I always work to have some structure to keep sanity in my life, to stay focused as much as possible and make sure that I have the support that I need. So for me, I think about accountability. I think about making sure that I have someone that I can talk to about a big problem. I want to make sure that I am establishing clear goals that are linked to my purpose so that I'm actually working on things that are going to matter and deliver results. Some of these things are very traditional, I realize, but when you're focused in a time of great change, you might actually deliver more results than you expect. I am a big proponent of setting daily priorities on my calendar so that, I manage to a list of 3 to 7 things that I need to accomplish in a day, and I work it until it's done. I am also a big proponent of self-care and creating wonderful habits, making sure exercise is in my life. Some of these things are very stabilizing, and really can help you stay in a better mindset. Mindset is a devil, if you will. It can absolutely get you if you don't take action and have some of this structure in your life. I also recommend that people take the time to make sure that they are in their best energy for their most important meetings, because how you come across affects everyone that you're working with. And if you're conveying a negative energy, you might not realize how you're damaging the relationships that you have in your life. And I also am big on, if there is something that you want, don't hesitate to ask for it. Like if there's something that you want from a well-being perspective at work, ask for it. Because today, more than ever, people are in touch with how difficult times are at home, the stresses that people are under. And if there's something that you want, workplaces are much more likely to give you what you want, if not more.
Really interesting. And I love the fact of clear goals to my purpose. I remember when I was a younger lad, I asked an older gentleman who I thought was very successful, and he was a retired financial planner. And he's known as the luckiest guy in the world, he told me. His name is Ray Lowe. And I asked him, I said, Ray, what's the success? to longevity because he's in his late 80s at this moment. He's still married to his same wife. And, he travels, he had all the money he wanted. He just seemed like a really happy guy. And I said, what's the key to happiness? He said, well, when it comes to business, design your life first.
Mm,
And I thought, man, that's profound, right?
that is, I love it.
I never had thought about it in that regard. So I did start doing that. And I was just having a conversation with a friend who's an associate in business as well earlier. And he said, Doug, you look great. What's going on in your life? I said, well, I sat down and I do this from time to time, but I decided I'm going to make decisions based on my values.
Mm,
What I'm going to say yes to, what I'm going to say no to, because I've got a lot going on like everybody else. And I was feeling some of the stress and as you said, these are kind of basic tenets that we're supposed to do. And, stress can be a devil, stress can be a blessing too, if you know how to utilize it for your benefit. That's what I have found. So I went through and did that exercise. One side of the paper, I wrote down all my values. The other side of the paper, I looked at the values and I started picking out the common themes. And I came up with a list of how I'm going to make decisions based on values. And as I've been doing that, I've been saying no to things I never would have said no to before.
mm,
And
that's great.
So in this ever changing world, which is going to continue to happen, my feeling is if we make it based on our personal value system and we know, and we're clear on that purpose, as you said, the clear on the outcome, then it's can't control change. I mean, change is going to happen.
Right.
Last night I went to a place to get a massage and an amazing thunderstorm happened while I was in the building, right? I walk out, it's like you can barely see the vehicle in front of it. Never mind. That's change. I mean, what are you going to do?
Totally.
So it happens in business every single day. And I think it goes back to what you just said about your personal state and how you show up and your emotions and your physiology and how they affect the outcome of what might be a great meeting or not a great meeting or a great, not a great interaction or amazing interaction. And I've always found that the strongest state actually wins in personal relationships. So Sara, I want to thank you for being here and great content. I know a lot of people are going to be like listening to this over and over because it's really amazing content. If people want to get a hold of you, because people do, how do they contact you?
Absolutely. They can take a look at my website at sarawsheehan.com, SarawSheehan.com. They can send me an email directly to Sara@sarawsheehan.com, and they can find me on LinkedIn.
So remember, folks, that's Sara with SARA, no H on the end of that one. And check it out. Check out the website. Give her a call if anything resonates on this particular podcast, and see what Sara can do for you. So
thanks so much for giving me time today. I have very much enjoyed our conversation, and I would love to hear from the listeners.
Yeah, I very much appreciate you being here. It was a subject matter that I haven't explored in this type of avenue before. And there's so many people that are just so confused about how do I, what is coaching? How do I use it? Advisory boards. I know I'm supposed to do it, but I've been telling myself that for the last, 6 years of my business life, and I haven't done it. So how do I do that? And, change and that's happening and going to continue to happen. I mean, with everything that's happening in the world, globally, there's going to be continued change. So again, I appreciate you being here, Sara, and come back sometime if you would.
Thanks so much. I would love to come back, and I hope you and the listeners have a great day.
Hey, was that a great episode of what? That was an excellent conversation. What do we converse on? Well, lots of good stuff, right? When should you use coaching? Should you be using coaching yourself? Do you have a coach, or do you just have somebody that gives you advice? Coaching is about to get you better off by getting you a new set of thought. With that new set of thought, you'll own that. And what will happen over time is you'll make better decisions. You'll put different actions into your business, and you will grow. This is why coaching works, because as much as we're intelligent, there are a lot of other intelligent people too that can give us the ability to think differently by giving us new insights, by asking questions. What kind of questions? Open-ended questions. Advisory teams. No matter what size your company is, you can, and I implore you, you must use an advisory team. Advisory teams speed up the availability to access of not only just information, but others, sometimes even capital. Whatever you need in your business, there are other people that are out there looking for you to help you be successful. All you have to do is ask. And what I loved about what Sara said was, find somebody that has your best interest in mind, right? And that is part of the key, and have clear understanding and expectations of what you want from the advisory members. Therefore, you'll look for the right advisory members. Third thing we discussed was, how do you deal in an ever-changing environment? Let's face it, with everything that's been going on right now, this podcast is in 2022. We're on May 16th. I had to look at the actual calendar because days keep flying by fast. But think about it. How much change has happened in the last 2 or 3 years in your life? How much change has happened in the lives of others over the last 2 or 3 years? I can tell you now, not only just with a great resignation, but a lot of people are looking for quality of life. So it affects how people are doing business. They're not looking necessarily like, in 20 years ago, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, I'd talk to people and like money, 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 money. That's really my key, right? And it still is for a lot of people. But a lot of other people, a very large majority of people are now saying quality of life plus money. So how do you deal in this ever-changing landscape with employees or personnel or vendors or people you're doing business with just in general? And then how do you navigate these waters for yourself? I found going back to your values and making value-based decisions is one of the best things that you can do, but you got to get clear on this stuff. If you want access to Sara, it's at SARAW, as in the letter W, Sheehan, SHEEHAN.com. Check out her website. If you want to touch base with her, she gave you the contact information. It will be in the show notes. As always, I appreciate you listening to the CEO Sales Strategies podcast. If you have any episodes on certain topics that you would like, feel free to send in your information at doug@ceosalesstrategies.com or catch me on LinkedIn at Doug Brown 1234. Let me know, hey, Doug, I'd love to have a subject expert come in on this subject, and we'll find that person and we'll source it if we don't already have readily accessible relationships like that, which we probably do. The second thing is, I always ask you this: if you love this episode or love any of our episodes and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, pass this along to friends, ask them to subscribe. And if you wouldn't mind, put a 5-star review up if you think this is worth a 5-star review. And the reason I ask that is the more subscribers we have, the better the algorithms work for us. The higher our podcast goes, the more people we can help. And lastly, if you feel that me personally can help your business in any way, shape, or form, just reach out to me at doug@ceosalesstrategies.com or Doug Brown 1234. Or if you're an old traditionalist baby boomer like myself and you want to call the company number, 603-595-0303. And as always, make your day great, because you never know if you have tomorrow. You think you do, but today, be happy. Go sell a lot of stuff, sell it profitably, make a ton of money, help somebody else out along the path, and be good to one another, because life is life. So till next time, to your success, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategies podcast, signing off on another episode created just for you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the CEO Sales Strategies podcast. What is something that you learned that you could act on today? Don't forget to schedule it now, or it may never get forward momentum. If you find our content valuable, please leave a favorable review and let us know what you liked. Please also share this with others if the content will help them. For our show notes, other episodes, and more interesting content and resources, please visit ceosalesstrategiespodcast.com. See you soon, and to your continued success.